we're looking carefully at a number of these rules that are being put into place. And if we think one goes too far, we initially try to jawbone the governors into rolling them back or adjusting them. And if they're not and people bring lawsuits, we file statement of interest and side with the plaintiffs.
So days after the president tweeted for the liberation of states like Michigan and Virginia, the U.S. Attorney General sending a clear message: if the state lockdowns go too far, he will step in. Well, can he? Let's debate with Democratic strategist Kevin Walling and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo. Welcome back to both of you.
Hey, Shannon.
Hey, Shannon. Good to see you.
Okay, you as well. Here is what the top Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, has to say about the Attorney General's statements.
So much for states' rights. I mean, I think he'll be way off base. I think he'll lose legally, and his view of an overarching, almost monarchical president never ceases to amaze me.
All right, John, your response.
Well, I'm not sure if this is what Senator Schumer means, but there is no, I think, general power that Congress has given to the president to reopen every single business in the country, restaurants, bars, and so on. Congress hasn't really even given the president the power to protect large interstate businesses. So if that's the case, and I think what the Justice Department still can do is sue on behalf of people who have constitutional rights guaranteed by the Bill of Rights to engage in certain practices like freedom of religion. That would allow churches to sue. Gun stores, maybe they don't have a right to sell guns to everybody, but maybe they can sell guns one at a time to a single person in the store. Maybe bookstores being able to sell books, newspapers, periodicals. Maybe, and here's I think the really hard case, what about protesters who want to have the right to protest the lockdowns and exercise their free speech rights? The government can place certain time, place, and manner restrictions, I think, saying you don't have to be too close, you can do it at certain times and places. But I don't think that states can say you have no right to protest at all, you have no right to practice your religion at all.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen the administration get involved in a couple of these cases where there were lockdowns and even drive-in church services and things like that. They can file a statement of interest or get involved with a case when it's already proceeding. Here's a little bit more about what the AG said about the fact that these are burdensome, some of these restrictions upon the idea of liberty, a foundation of our country.
These are very, very burdensome impingements on liberties, and we adopted them. We have to remember, for the limited purpose of slowing down the spread, that is, bending the curve.
Kevin, you know, when the government wants to infringe on rights, they have to show exactly what they're doing, and it's unlimited. It's limited and is undue a burden as necessary. So, I mean, that is a legal principle.
Yeah, Shannon, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think with anything regarding this pandemic, we've got to listen to the doctors, the medical experts, the public health experts when it comes to the states opening back up. I actually support what the president put out last Thursday in terms of the guidelines that the White House announced in terms of how they would evaluate states opening if they've seen drops within the last 2 weeks of cases in those states. But again, as I said before, this should not be a legal question. This should be a public health question. And none of these governors, whether they be Republican or Democrat, are doing this because they enjoy keeping people at home or they enjoy shutting businesses down. They're doing it because they see the public health as the #1 issue with regards to why they ran and why they are elected to serve in the first place.
Okay, I want to get you both to weigh in on another story that we have. The Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has gotten a lot of attention, and part of that today was not so positive because it had to do with companies that she awarded contracts to, or the state awarded contracts to go out and do contact tracing on people as part of the COVID, rollout again. And a couple of these companies had very deep Democratic ties. The initial headline from the Washington Free Beacon said Michigan Governor Whitmer awards coronavirus contract to Dem consulting firm. Went on to say the move has sparked concern. She's using the coronavirus to strengthen the Democratic Party's data operation, potentially at the expense of public health, because they would be able to get information for households, how many people there, contact. It would go into a database. Well, that's been rolled back now. A spokesman for the governor says the contract should have been approved by the State Emergency Operations Center. It's being corrected, and a different vendor and software platform will be selected by the states. Essentially, I want to get you both to weigh in quickly on that. John, we'll start with you.
Well, I think it's a deep concern because one thing is I completely agree. This is a power protecting the public health and safety that rests in the hands of the states. and courts are generally deferential to that. But if it looks like states are using it as a pretext to advantage their political parties, then courts are going to become much more intrusive, and they're going to start questioning whether these kinds of lockdowns are really for public health and safety or there's some other agenda. Maybe it's no mistake that Michigan has the strictest lockdown policy in the country, and at the same time, you're starting to see politicians try to take advantage of that to play partisan games.
Kevin, was this an unforced error?
Yeah, I absolutely think it was an unforced error. I think there was a disconnect between the Michigan HHS department that announced this contract yesterday. Obviously, the governor's office got wind of that, saw the optics problem with that, because I think, to John's point, and it's a good one, the public needs to have trust, whether it be on the federal level or on the state level, that what is happening with these governors and the president are in the public interest. And once that trust is questioned, it becomes even more problematic with regards to public health. I think the governors took action quickly to reverse this, which is good, and an investigation should play out in terms of how this contract was awarded.
We'll watch it as it does. Kevin and John, thank you both.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.